You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the second part of What If Naruto Enters Invincible? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of NeonZangetsu on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Cecil had been here. He'd sensed him for a split second before used the teleporter to bolt back. No matter. He'd deal with him later. For now, he only had one thought, one target, one objective. Naruto crashed down through the ceiling at speed, struck a soldier and stomped down, riding him to the ground as one might a surfboard, leaving a red ruin in his wake. He kicked off the corpse and launched himself at a second soldier, body blazing gold. He mowed the man down, followed by a third, a fourth, a fifth now, fighting his way through guard after guard, soldier after soldier, sparing none. Behind him, through vision glazed red by rage, he was vaguely aware of Samantha and Joshua alighting after him, carrying their younger siblings and Brandyworth between them. He lingered long enough to make certain they were safe, then buelled onward. "Dad," he heard Eve shout. Wait. He didn't. How could he? Polly. Where was she? She had to be here. She must. If she wasn't, no. Don't think about that. On and on he fought, tearing through everything in his path. There was no subtlety to it. No need. Let them know he was coming. Let them feel the fear and experience the dread he'd felt all those years ago. He'd pay it all back and tear it out of their hides. Quite suddenly a door parted ahead of him. He barreled through it without a second thought. The room beyond was green and gray, all cold metal and steel. He could see the consoles and tanks mounted within, but didn't care for anything else. And so the subject comes home. Because there, standing in the center of the room, flanked by guards, a dark-skinned man with closed-cropped hair awaited him, clad in a crisp blue suit. Looked like he'd seen better days. He frowned, confusion briefly breaking through the rage. "Have we met? You don't remember me," the stranger scowled and wiped a line of blood from his nose. "I offered you a chance at greatness. You refused, and so forced my hand." Realization dawned. This was Steven Erikson. The rage came on again, stronger than ever. He started forward. "I'm going to feed you your own heart." "I wouldn't do that, were I you." The man held up something in his hand, a squat rectangular device he didn't recognize. His thumb hovered just over a large red button set within. "Everything I've done, I did for the good of this country. I won't let you take that away." He took another step. "Is that little red button supposed to scare me?" The man balked. "Pardon? You're like Cecil. You just don't understand. I don't give this," he snapped his fingers, "about your precious government, or your country, or any of it. You touched my family." He blurred into the soldiers and slaughtered them in an instant, kicking and crushing their skulls. Blood spattered everywhere. "You die screaming. Go on." Erikson sneered at him, unfazed despite it all. "Do something else you'll regret. After all, now that I have you, your partner isn't needed anymore." He looked to the scientist beside him. "Do it." "Do what?" The man keyed a quick command in on the console. With a wail and an alarm, another tube rose from the floor. There was something inside it. No, that wasn't quite right. Someone. His knees hit the floor. It was her. Polly. They'd shaved her head bald, put screws in her skull, hooked her up to some ghastly metal contraption and filled her with wires and tubes to keep her breathing, but he knew her face, gaunt and emaciated though it was. Her eyes stared listlessly ahead, seeing nothing, nearly rolled back into her head. One twitched as he looked on, unable to see him. He couldn't bear to look at her. Where was she? Where was the woman he'd fallen in love with? Where was the witty girl who could light a room with a laugh? Where was the proud mother-to-be who practically glowed during her pregnancy? This wasn't her. This wasn't his wife. This was a hollow shell of a human, a living corpse. Samantha stumbled in behind him at last, saw the woman in the tube, and froze. Who is that? Ah, and there she is, the hero of the hour. At the sight of his prize, Ericsson's smile became an ugly grimace. Where do you think all your brothers and sisters came from? Not just daddy dearest, oh no. That, my dear, he gestured with the remote, is your mother. And if you do not do exactly as I say, she will die. Eve whimpered, it was a sound that tore his heart to pieces. Oh God, she's still alive. Technically alive, the government agent held up a hand. We didn't get her back up and running in time to save her from massive brain damage. But, he scoffed and rolled his broad shoulders in a shrug, well, we both know she only had one use anyway. Naruto lurched to his feet. You did this to her. You. His world went red. He couldn't think. Couldn't move. Breathe. You're old, Naruto. Ericsson's lip curled, mistaking his silence for weakness. Out of touch. You've forgotten the laws of the jungle. The strong will always rule over the weak. Kurama uttered not a word. None were necessary. Calm descended upon him, cold and eerie. Well said. He stepped in, blurred, and slammed a hand through Ericsson's stomach. It burst out his back in a shower of scarlet. Ericsson dropped the remote as he crumpled with a shriek, frantically trying to keep his stomach in. Naruto ripped his limb free, kicked the remote away, and rounded on him. Hurts, doesn't it? Another blow tore Ericsson's arm clean off at the shoulder, momentum hurtling him across the room. Where do you think you're going? He snarled when the BSTRD tried to crawl away. Because you're not going out the way you came in, you son of a bitch. Talking to me about the laws of the jungle. Really? He stomped down and grabbed him by the head, then smashed his face into the floor, stunning him. What was it you called me? Old? Out of touch. He cocked his head, listening to the man's pained cries, the pleas for mercy, and shouted over them. There's only one rule in this jungle. When the fox is hungry. A shadow fell over Ericsson. The man whimpered. He eats. Kurama's burst into existence around him, his jaws lunged down, caught Ericsson by the leg, and swung him into a wall, biting it off at the knee as he flew. The man went down with a gurgle. Naruto came crashing down on that bloody leg, drawing a pained shriek from him. It didn't stop there. He reached up, grabbed the man by the mouth, heedless of his begging, and squeezed. His jaw shattered with an awful crunch and was left hanging there. Tears ran from his eyes. Not good enough. He had a promise to keep. Taut fingers stabbed deep into Ericsson's chest, found purchase, and ripped his heart free. Another hole in his body. The man might have survived the first. He wouldn't the second. He held the ruined organ before him now, leaving it still beating faintly as the horrified man looked on. An angry rasp filled the air as he glared down at him. Remember what I promised you? Ericsson gurgled weakly. Now swallow. He stuffed the heart into his ruined mouth and made him do just. Then he crushed his head in his hands. Catharsis was short-lived. Mom. He whirled, finding Eve crouched before the tank, holding Polly in her arms. Someone must have broken the glass when he wasn't looking. Maybe she had. Or maybe it had been punctured in the chaos somehow. He wasn't sure. He could feel her life fading, flickering, a dying candle in the wind. No. He was moving before he realized what was happening, dropping to his knees as the others poured into the room. No, no. He barely heard the lot of them. No, no, no. Not like this. It couldn't end like this. He wouldn't let it. Trembling fingers cupped her cheek. Polly. A raspy groan answered him behind the mask. He swore softly. Oh, sweetheart, what did they do to you? Dad, you can fix this, right? Ever turned desperate, pleading eyes on him. Fix her. You're a healer. You said so. He closed his eyes and pushed all of his chakra to the fore. I'm gonna try. Kurama towered over him and burst through the ceiling above. Naruto never saw him. He was far too focused. The world went gold. Nolan sighed in the skies. Oh, great. He's back. Thought that BSTRD died. He most certainly hadn't, or if he had, he looked pretty good for a dead man. Because a giant golden fox had just burst from the building below him and laid waste to everything around it. Nope, he decided. No need to get involved in this disaster. He'd just pretend he didn't see anything or hear anything. Light. She could see it. Feel it. Taste it. Touch it. Smell it. Hear it even, strange as that might sound. It sang to her like the sweetest of songs, poured into her ravaged mind, surged through her senses until it was all she knew, all she craved, all she wanted. It chilled her body and burned through her blood, freezing and scorching her all at once. Yet the light was also a comfort to her. It was familiar. Was that the right word? She thought it was. The light wrapped around her close, held her snug and tight, as though she were a caterpillar and this, her chrysalis. It was in the light that she was reborn, in the light that she finally had her first coherent thought in 12 years. Who am I? The light provided answers. Polly, an impossibly deep voice rumbled from all around her. Your name is Polly. You've been asleep for a very long time. It sounded right, but she couldn't remember properly. Her head hurt. Thinking hurt. Something was wrong. Why couldn't she think? There was a terrible pressure in her skull, an awful ache, but she couldn't lift her hands to touch her head. Couldn't move at all, come to think of it. But thinking that was getting easier. The pressure in her head had begun to fade, already little more than a distant memory. With its absence came questions, so many questions, one after the other, each more poignant than the last. Where am I? What happened? Why have I been asleep? How long was I unconscious? Where is she? Where's my daughter? Daughter. She remembered now. She had a daughter. A girl. Samantha Eve Uzumaki. She'd been close to term with her, only a few weeks out. There was more, wasn't there? Something flashed through her mind. A man with bright blue eyes, tawny blue hair, and whiskered cheeks. Clad in an orange turtleneck and battered blue jeans, he sat beside a window, watching the rain. He turned to face her suddenly, saw her, and his face lit up in a smile that took her breath away. Rather than stand, he knelt and offered a hand to her. There was a box in his palm and within it a ring. His lips were moving, and though she couldn't make out the words, she could deny the sudden surge of feeling that his smiling face conjured. His name. What his name? Oh God, why couldn't she remember his name? The memory seared through her brain, so sharp and painful that it tore a gasp from her in the light. No, she realized. It wasn't just light. There was another word for it. Right there, on the tip of her tongue. She wrinkled her nose in the void, and poured every fiber of her being into remembering. Chakra. Yes, yes, that was the word. Someone had wrapped her in a golden chrysalis of chakra. It's for your own good. The deep voice came on again. You were, a pause followed, well, you were clinically dead at one point. You're barely alive right now. Hearing the voice stirred something in Polly's heart, she felt something click together in her fractured psyche. She remembered that voice belonging to someone. Something quite large and not human. She felt a brief bleed of raw, nameless terror, accompanied by a deep calm. The voice would never hurt her. She didn't know why she recalled that, but it was an immutable thought even among her fractious thoughts. She couldn't see outside this cocoon of chakra, but she could feel a presence, old and deep as the sea nearby. The name came to her in a flash. Kurama. How could she remember him and not the man? It wasn't fair. Not fair at all. Well, at least you remember something in that scatterbrain of yours. The wan ghost of a smile touched her pale lips. Mean as ever. Hoarse laughter answered her retort. I say it as I see it. Her mirth didn't last long at all. Where am I? This is your mind. What's left of it? That didn't sound so good. It isn't, his reply sent her hopes plummeting into the very pit of her stomach. My chakra is the only thing holding you together at the moment. Your body has suffered severe brain damage and massive organ failure. That's not something easily fixed, even for Naruto. Naruto. The name was a thunderbolt in Polly's mind, a searing flash that burned away the fog shrouding her mind. Memories blitzed her one after the other as the past caught up with her in a maelstrom of emotion. Who he was, what he'd been to her, what he'd become. Friend. Lover. Husband. Father to her one and only daughter. About that. Polly blinked, not quite comprehending until the dread came. About what? No, horror dawned soon thereafter. Don't tell me I lost the baby. No, Samantha's quite all right. Kurama almost sounded sheepish and rather embarrassed. That worried her. It's just well. Did Naruto have an affair while I was out? Her brow furrowed. I told him I was fine with him seeing other women. Unfortunately, no. The fox made a nose caught somewhere between a snarl and a sigh. He's been quite faithful. And to think, I'd almost forgotten how much of an insatiable like you were. She grinned to mask her anxiety. Sorry, not sorry. War Woman has a fantastic peach. I won't apologize for wanting to tap that. He saw right through her as ever. You're deflecting. I can feel your heartbeat spiking. With that, her temper sparked. Then spit it out already, you overgrown furball. You may have a few more children than you remember. Polly's brain fizzled right out. Big Fox say what now? Peas in a pod the two of you, I swear. Kwama told her then, in no uncertain terms, what her husband had suffered, what had been done to her, the surprise awaiting her when she awoke, then finally the sorry state of her brain and just how long she had been asleep, for lack of a better term. It was a sobering tale, one that would have broken anyone else. But it didn't break Polly. Oh, no. It did something far worse. The words lodged in her throat, they did what to me? She'd always had a temper. Naruto loved it, he often enjoyed winding her up and letting her loose. Said she was cute when she was angry. She never understood why. The anger she felt now, no, the apoplectic rage. Not cute. At all. Polly, no. Just calm down. Polly, yes. Let me out. She gnashed her teeth, struggling against the warm chakra that held her. She would have thrashed her way awake if he hadn't bound her so securely in the cocoon. Let me out right now. Let me see my babies. Let me kill the BSTRDS who did this to me. Stop struggling. If you wake up in your current state, you'll die. Do you want that? She subsided with a scowl. No. Then calm down and let me finish healing you. A sullen pout crossed her face. I wanna see my babies. And you will if I have anything to say about it. Kurama almost sounded amused by her anger. feisty little thing. If I didn't know better, I'd swear you were half Uzumaki. What happened to me, exactly? There was an attack. I'm a bit fuzzy on the details myself. So was she, come to think of it. There had been no's. She wasn't sure. Everything was so scrambled. There had been someone, no, several someones. She recalled Naruto flinging her behind him. A pillar of light falling down from the heavens. Dust, dirt, then nothing. Her memories were fuzzy, but she remembered the pain, the sting of betrayal. Two figures standing among the smoke and rubble, hazy and indistinct the voices. There. I honored my part of the bargain. Now keep yours. Ericsson's voice had answered, the slimy toad, oozing with patriotic pride. But of course. It had been someone they knew. Someone they trusted, someone who turned on them. Of that much she was certain. Your body is going to be very weak for quite a while. Kurama's voice mercifully tugged her out of her fuzzy memories before her own paranoia could consume her. You've suffered catastrophic damage to your internal organs, and been kept alive on fluids and life support, to say nothing of the injuries to your brain. Whatever they did to you, it took its toll. Malnutrition is one thing, but there's only so much I can heal. I had to regrow most of your internal organs once we peeled you out of that suit, and even then. He was building up to something else. She knew she wouldn't like it. How bad is it? I'm not certain, the old fox sounded almost aggrieved. You might have several decades ahead of you or a few years. You may never fully recover. Only time will tell. Her eyes stung. Oh, those BSTRDS. Those absolute, stinking, freakin' BSTRDS. Alright. Okay. Deep breaths. So what if her body was failing? Where there's a will, there's a way. She was still alive here and now, for the moment. Nothing else mattered. The future could be dealt with later. If there was future. There had to be a future for her. There must be, because if there wasn't, she knew a certain blonde would break. Don't tell Naruto. She had to be the one to broach that subject. I have to. He already knows. Kurama's words tore a gasp from her. He's hearing every bit of this. Oh. Just great. That was lovely. His heart must be breaking, she just knew it. You may also experience gaps in your memory. She already was. She could feel them. There were holes in her thoughts for lack of a better words. Gaps. Try as she might, Polly couldn't remember everything. Little things, like her favorite color, least favorite food, or the salty spray of the sea. The thought brought tears to her eyes. Had she always been this emotional? Or had that memory been taken from her, too? She was sure there were other things she'd forgotten, important things, but right now, none of those mattered. I can recall the important bits, she steeled herself, mastering her nerves. Nothing else matters. They also shaved your head. Not her hair. It took forever to grow it that long. BSTRDS. Her old friend tried to laugh at that. He failed. At least that will grow back, I think. Polly felt her brow furrow in anger. Wake me up. Now. I've slept long enough. You won't be able to stay awake for very long. It'll be long enough, she growled. Let me see my family. He relented and the chrysalis of chakra fell away. And in that instant, her eyes opened. Her eyes opened. It was an abrupt and sudden thing, Naruto found. One moment she was sound asleep on the floor, effectively dead to the world, in the next her eyes snapped open. She saw him, he saw her, and in turn glimpsed the flash of primordial panic pulsing through her gaze. There were no words. She reached up with one hand and cupped his cheek, then squeezed it gently. Are you real? I am, he choked out. Her eyes glimmered with tears. This isn't a dream. Naruto shook his head. It was that which broke the dam deep within Polly. His wife sobbed and clutched at him, uncaring of her nakedness, her weakness, or even the now discarded cybernetics left strewn out on the floor around them. She wrapped both arms around him and held tight, only having eyes for him and nothing else. She was so light. He could lift her with one arm and very nearly did just that, until she started talking again. How did you get out? What happened? Where? She coughed harshly, her throat still dry. Where the hell is? You're all right. He whispered fiercely before she could panic. Everything's going to be all right now. Polly didn't answer that, just clung to him all more. He pulled back to get a better look at her and very nearly wished he hadn't. Her violet eyes were sunken in her head, rimmed with dark shadows, her face made gaunt and lean by the years. Chakra was a mighty fine thing, but could do little for malnutrition or frailty. She would need food and rest. A lot of the latter. It served as a painful reminder. Kurama had done the best he could, but she didn't have a tailed beast of her own to speed her healing along. She was painfully thin too, he could see the bones poking through her skin. Sage above, she looked so small. Her head kissed his chest. You haven't aged a day. No fair. A peal of bitter laughter burst out of him, sharp and hysteric. Neither have you. Ha! She rasped out a laugh of her own. Liar. I feel awful. Probably look even worse. She did. Was she the same person he remembered? Was he? Were either of them? They'd both been changed by their experiences. But then she looked at him. Really looked at him, as she had 12 years ago. Her eyes met his and he was lost. That was it. He was done, doomed, and decided, just as he'd been on that day so long ago. No matter how weary she might be, how hurt by time, she was still his wife. Looking back, he wasn't sure who kissed whom first. One moment he was holding her close, then her lips were on his and there she was, melting into him with the sweetest sigh. Even weak and trembling from her near-death experience she still managed a wan smile from him. Let's go home. She clung a little tighter to him. I'd bang your brains out right now if I want so drop-dead tired. Polly. What? She tilted her head. You've never had a problem with me talking like this before. He made a quick gesture, trying to indicate the kids. Mercifully, her remark sailed right over the younger children's heads. Not so Samantha and Joshua. Both understood her words and both made gagging noises. You. Wait a minute. Polly stiffened in his arms, then started squirming once she realized they weren't alone. They're here. As in right here. Let me see. Samantha Eve Uzumaki shuffled forward, face hopeful. She'd taken that silly mask of hers off and now wrung it between her hands anxiously. Are you really? Polly blinked quickly. Once. Twice. Thrice. She'd never laid eye on Samantha in her life, yet he saw the moment she saw her, she knew her as her own. A mother always knew. She had carried her for 9 months after all, and while she may have missed 12 years of her life, that was no fault of her own. Call it hope, call it magic, or just simple maternal instinct. She reached out an arm for her without zero hesitation, no at all. The smile that split her face in that instant could have outshone the very sun itself. Oh, my. She laughed aloud, just look at you. My little Samantha, how you've grown. Come here. Complete and utter acceptance. Anything else would have broken little Eve outright. Naruto had no real way of knowing, but in that instant, the last lingering loyalty their daughter felt toward her foster parents truly withered and died. She burst into tears and rushed forward into Polly's arms. Her mother, his wife, dragged her close, murmuring softly into her ear. There, she crooned. You don't have to say anything. Mommy's here. Nor were her other 4 siblings left out in the rain. Polly noticed them not a nanosecond later. Joshua was her next victim. There could be no escape from a mother's searching gaze, and he was no exception. Naruto almost pitied him. Almost. There was no getting away from Polly once she had eye on you, and their son was firmly in her sights. And who do we have here? She peeked over Eve's shoulder at the stunned boy, still holding their daughter tight. Don't be shy. You can talk, can't you? He bowed his head, face gone red. I can. Aw, you're shy. Still holding Eve close, she looked to him. I take it he's ours too, then. He has your whiskers. He certainly does, and my temper. Naruto coughed into a fist to hide the rueful smile of his past. That would be Joshua. Polly perked up. You named him after my father? Naruto nodded. Just like you wanted. Such a darling boy. Come here, she beckoned quickly at the blonde boy. Let me have a look at you. Young Joshua flushed under her gaze, but was helpless to resist. The moment he got within arm's reach, Polly yanked him down. He put up a token resistance as she pressed his head against her collarbone and wrapped a thin arm around him, squeezed for all she was worth. In a matter of moments he was trapped beside a rather embarrassed Eve. Oh, look at you. Polly giggled, rubbing her forehead against his. You're the spitting image of your grandfather. I wish he could have met you. Naruto nudged Polly with his elbow, idly reminding her that she wasn't done. Her tired eyes lit up at the reminder and she craned her bruised neck, looking past him. There had been no escape for the terrible trio before, and there certainly wasn't now. Not that they looked like they wanted to do any such thing, mind you. And the other three? Jessica, Luca, and Amanda, he rattled off their names, indicating each in turn. The older siblings shuffled forward, with little Amanda nestled firmly between the two of them. Polly practically squealed. They're so small. Well, don't just stand there. Join in. We're having a group hug. Amanda, Jessica and Luca couldn't speak, but they jumped her with happy noises all the same and held tight, crowding in with the rest. They don't know how to talk. Naruto whispered in a quiet aside. We're working on that. I certainly hope so. Oh, and you've named them all without me. She tried to give his arm a spirited smack, but didn't have the strength for it. I've missed so much. We both have. He crouched down and joined in on their little embrace. There's plenty of time to make it up. The words reopened a pit in his stomach even as he said them. Neither wanted to mention the elephant in the room, the fact that she might not have all that much time left. No. He refused to dwell on the possibility. He'd heal her every day if he had to. And if that didn't work, there had to be another way of preserving her mind. Or moving her soul to another body. He knew people. Had contacts of his own. There were a lot of people out there who owed him favors and he'd happily cash them all in if it meant saving her. We'll make it last, he muttered. We have to. She smiled at him oh so sadly. It hurt more than words. Even now he could sense the struggle in her, the sheer energy she was expending just to breathe and keep her eyes open. He knew she was trying to put on a brave face for the children. Inside he could feel her hurt. 12 years of torture. 144 months of pain. 4,383 days of loneliness. And she had barely been alive for most of it. Nevertheless, she did her level best to hug them all at once, all the more difficult by years of being kept in the tank. Suddenly, she yawned. Her eyes drooping. Sleepy. Here, let's get you up. He swept her up in his arms and stood. All right, kids. He raised his voice, marshalling Even and the others. We're leaving. Someone find Brandyworth and let's go. Are you out of your mind? Cecil bristled into his headset. What the hell are you doing? I told you to stay on standby. And let your failure taint us as well. His earpiece crackled with taut anger, boiling over with wrath. No. Now wait just a second. If he sees you now, I guarantee he'll go berserk. His warning fell on deaf ears. The line was already dead. He flung the headset down with a snarl. Damn it. A dark haze swirled over the ruined lab. Noxious black smoke poured from shattered windows, tumbled out broken doors, billowed into the sky as the searing flames pushed it ever higher. Soon enough the very clouds themselves were tainted by the inferno left behind, once fluffy white nimbuses stained an ominous ugly gray as the horizon darkened for miles in every direction, threatening to blot out the very sun. Kurama had done his work well. No one would be able to use this place as a base for years, if not decades. All that remained was a single exit point for one man and his family, and that too would be collapsed once they departed. Naruto didn't care for anything beyond that. If never saw this place again, it would be too soon. If there were any survivors they were summarily trapped in the burning rubble and left to die. As far as he was concerned, every man and woman working in this facility was guilty. They knew what they were doing, what they were working, what they countenanced. Let them burn for all he cared. Let them rot. Smoke ballooned outwards now as he stormed up the steps and into daylight, still cradling a sleepy Polly in his arms. The children trailed anxiously behind him, with a rather haggard Brandyworth bringing up the rear. The man kept glancing at Polly, wanting to make certain she was all right. Kind of him. He might let him stay on as a godfather of sorts to the children certainly counted as Polly's. Unfortunately, it seemed their exit wasn't going to be as clean as their entry. He expected the police. Was prepared for the police. Even felt some small semblance of pity for the boys in blue. These were not the police. His first clue came in the form absolute silence, the lack of fear he sensed even as they ascended. His second was the steely determination he felt, mired with guilt. And the third their anger. So much anger. Whomever was waiting for him, and there was more than one, they were proper furious, and he couldn't understand why. Ericsson's forces must have tripped the alarm, or maybe someone had simply seen the smoke and called it in. He wasn't surprised to find folks waiting for him. Cecil might have decommissioned this facility but heroes were still heroes. He should have known someone would show up, but who was it, and why did they feel vaguely familiar to his senses? Oh, dear. A mace smashed into his face just as he crested the exit. He was ready for it and turned the other cheek. Because you see, he knew this mace. Just as he did the one wielding it. Good to see you again, war woman, he grinned around it, momentarily unable to see. Mind getting that mace out my face? I just need to kill a few more people, take my family, and be on my way. Naruto, a startled voice greeted him. Oh gods, is that really you? No, of course it isn't me, Holly. His voice all but dripped with sarcasm and he rolled his eyes as he used her real name. I'm actually an evil clone. This is all some sinister plot to take over the world. Of course it's me. At his shout, Polly stirred in his arms, sighed, then blinked blearily up at their would-be attacker. Oh hey, it's the woman with the fantastic peach. Her words had the desired effect. War woman jerked backward with a sputter, face burning. Polly. A feverish grin was her reward. Sorry, not sorry, still really want that THRSM. Eve squirmed out of the exit behind them, eyes wide. Naruto waved her back. He hoped the message was clear enough. Let me do the talking. I see she hasn't changed. Mentally, at least. War woman looked at her more closely, noting her nakedness and frail appearance. What happened here? A lot of things, none of which he felt like repeating. This is the part where you let us go. I need to get my family settled. Family? No point hiding them now. He whistled once. Eve and Joshua filed out after him, with Jessica and Luca bringing up the rear. Little Amanda grinned gormlessly at the lot of them and even dared a little wave. Last of all came Brandyworth, looking terribly tense and ready to fling himself in front of the children if they came to harm. Which they just might. War woman blinked rapidly, eyelids fluttering in surprise. They look just like the two of you too. Of course they do, silly. Polly yawned in his arms. There are children. The remark seemed to wound War Woman. She flinched back, head twisting this way and that as she tried to take all of them in at once, essentially looking like he'd just snapped her neck. But how? Ahem, someone coughed. As entertaining as this little interlude is, I'm afraid you have bigger problems. Naruto looked past her, mildly nonplussed. Of course she wouldn't come alone. He looked up as 6 figures floated down from above. Well, well, well. If it isn't the Guardians of the Globe, he clicked his tongue softly. I'm honored. He remembered most of them from the good old days. There was the immortal, implacable as ever, while Red Rush flicked him a jaunty wave. Darkwing's stony countenance reflected nothing, but Aquarius looked like he'd seen a ghost. Martian Man granted him a curt nod and was that one over there the new green ghost? Interesting. Seemed the mantle had been passed on while he was out. He wondered if that slip of a girl could live up to her predecessor legacy. His heat tilted. Is this the part where you arrest me? The immortal stepped forward, face carved from stone. We're not here to fight you. Well, that's good. His smile wasn't entirely feigned. I'd hate to kill you if you in front of my kids. Although, he frowned past him, noting the absence of someone. Where's Samson? Couldn't be bothered to show up. A look of shame flashed across the older man's face. He lost his powers. Lost them? Now it was his turn to flinch. How in blazes do you lose your powers? That would be like me losing my chakra or no, not focusing on that, he held up a hand to forestall an explanation. I'm only going to ask this once. Were you involved? The immortal winced. Naruto. Were you involved? He looked upon his old friends with deadly calm, daring them to object. It's a simple question. Did any one of you, play a part in what happened the night I was attacked? Red Rush tried to intervene. Now hold on. Naruto rounded on. You lie, you die. The speedster shut right up. Alas, the immortal didn't. Have you taken leave of your senses? You can't possibly hope to take us all on at once. Not in your current state. You're right, a feral smile flashed forth, practically splitting his face. I can't. He pointed a finger upward. But he can. Kurama crashed down behind him in all his golden glory, towering over them all. Hello again, ants. Martian Man backpedaled. Aquarius and Green Ghost nearly fainted dead away. That settles it. Darkwing rumbled. It's definitely him. War Woman tooted. As if there were any doubt. Kurama scoffed and laid down on his haunches, towering over them all, content to watch what followed. This is the part where you start talking. Naruto declared. Or you could try to fight me. He pivoted, nimbly handed the still sleepy Polly off to a stunned Brandyworth, and stepped forward, arms spread wide. On second thought, go right ahead. Come. Die. I'll slaughter you. And when you run, when you beg, when you plead, when you look up to me and cry mercy, I'll say no. How does that sound? War Woman tried to intervene again, bless her heart. What's happened to you? You've been through a lot, I understand, but... How could you possibly understand? Naruto blinked. He hadn't been the one to say those words. He turned and found Joshua at his side, glaring furiously up at War Woman and the rest. Joshua. How could any of you? The boy shook his hand off and buelled forward, eyes blazing. We've all been through 12 years of hell. Even her, he stabbed a finger at Eve, who'd done as he'd asked and held her tongue until this very moment. Do you have any idea what that was like? We were nothing. No. Less than nothing to these people. All they wanted was a weapon. Every day we prayed for someone to save us. For a hero. He looked her up and down, damning the Guardians in an instant. Where were you? Every hero present flinched. Naruto heaved a sigh. Josh, enough. His son subsided with a scowl. Only then did he look back to the Guardians. To answer your earlier question, I am me. I have always been me. Nothing more, nothing less. His eyes met Holly's, azure piercing through cyan blue. And I never go back on my word. That's exactly what I mean. War Woman burst out, flinging up her arms. Do you even hear what you're saying? All this violence. You aren't yourself. Unfortunately for her, that was the precisely wrong thing to say at the wrong time. And just like that, his anger came roaring right back. She realized it too late, he saw it in her face. Not myself, his voice rose in a barely audible hiss. Not myself. A peal of bitter laughter escaped him as he tapped one finger to his chin. Why is that, I wonder? It's almost like something horrible happened to me. Some terrible, life-changing event that saw me and mine held captive for more than a decade. Holly winced. Naruto. No, Holly, his temper, already strained by Joshua's brief outburst, now tore free from its leash as he stabbed a finger in his old friend's face to silence her. I am talking. I have had one hell of a day. I've suffered things you can't even begin to imagine, gone through hell and back to reunite my family, and now you show up. Now. She wilted in the face of his anger, and that only made him angrier, leaving him to turn his wrath on the rest of the Guardians. None of you looked for me. I was your ally, you comrade, your friend, and you left me. He thumped a fist against his chest with every word, eyes blazing into them. You left me. We didn't know. Enough. The immortal shouldered his way between them. None of this matters right now. Loyalty always matters. His elbow cracked out, bloodying the man's nose and driving him backwards besides. The other Guardians tensed. Some went for their weapons. Others just balked. Naruto rounded on them all, teeth bared, ready to fight. They thought they had the high ground, even now. What a joke. If any of them had been taken, he would have moved heaven and earth to find them. He would not have stopped, wouldn't have rested, until they were found and their kidnappers brought to justice. Then again, he had the benefit of being perhaps the strongest censor on the planet. He could have found them anywhere. The same could not be said for them. Yet even so, they had their resources. They could have done something. They should have done something. Why hadn't anyone done something? Now here they were, barring his path. It made him angry. Made him want to lash out even more, but he shouldn't. Holly was nestled in Brandywortha's arms and their kids were right behind them. But to just stand there. You're right. We failed you. War Woman's response took the wind out of his sails, if only for a moment. We searched every day for you, for 3 years, until all our leads dried up. You should have looked a little closer to home. He jerked a thumb over his shoulder. The GDA had me. Cecil claims he didn't know. We'll see. Now start talking. He grabbed her by the wrist before she could even think to step away. Were you involved in this or weren't you? I meant what I said before. He looked at them each in turn. If I so much as smell a lie, bodies are hitting the floor. Kurama lifted his head from where he lay, ready to pounce at the slightest provocations. The immortal, proud as ever, wiped the BLD from his nose and lifted his chin first. I had nothing to do with this madness, old friend. War Woman touched a hand to her chest. I swear I didn't know anything about this, dear heart. Red Rush clicked his tongue once. Who would I have for competition if you croaked? Green Ghost raised a hand. I wasn't even part of the Guardians back then, so. No. Darkwing shook his head, once and done. No need for more words. Aquarius floundered under his gaze. Not me. Martian man replied similarly. Nor I. Naruto expected a lie. Falsehoods of some sort. Negative intent at the very least. And yet he sensed nothing. Not even the tiniest tremor of discontent. They weren't lying. None of them were. Which meant none of them had anything to do with it. How? Who did that leave? He could understand being overwhelmed if 6 or 7 people jumped him at once in an unguarded moment, but that clearly wasn't the case. The Guardians of the Globe were the premier superhero team on this side of the planet, if not the entire world. Who could possibly take him by surprise and win? An uglier suspicion slithered through his mind. Could it be? No. Not him. Please not him. It just couldn't be. We'll talk on this later. He shoved the suspicion out of his mind, shook his head, and turned to take Polly back from Brandyworth. Right now, we're leaving. Get out the way. Remarkably, they did just that. War Woman even dared to lay a hand on his shoulder in passing. Where will you go? Where do you think? He shook her off. Home. After that, I've got people to interrogate and kill. Holly heaved a heavy sigh. Naruto, no. Naruto, yes. He couldn't afford to rest just yet. For he had miles to go. And promises to keep. Family. She had a family. An honest-to-goodness family. Samantha Adam Eve was still reeling from it all. In less than a day her world had been turned topsy-turvy, upside down and inside out. Nothing would be the same. She knew that now. Her life hadn't been ordinary before, sure, but now it was extraordinary. Fantastic, even. And maybe that wasn't so bad. She'd always wanted a big family, and now she had one. She still found herself reeling from it, even as she slipped inside her house. It felt strange, looking at it now, knowing this would be the last time she ever saw it. All that remained was to collect her things and go. Did she feel guilty about this? A little, yeah. But it was obvious her not parents would never let her go. They wouldn't understand. Maybe if she was quiet and clever she could sneak in and out without anyone noticing. She'd asked Dad to wait outside. He hadn't been happy about that, but he'd agreed, if only to give her a chance to do things on her terms. Besides, someone needed to look after Mom. Mom, she was alive, yeah, but she didn't look too good. She could tell just by looking at her. Josh, it felt so strange having a brother, must have realized it too, because he hadn't left her side since. The younger kids would figure it out sooner or later, she was sure. Eve crept through the door, still lost in her head, mind floating in the clouds. What she saw within brought her crashing back down to earth. Oh gods! Her parents were waiting for her in the kitchen. They didn't look happy. It might have something to do with the presents and birthday cake on the table, the multicolored balloons, or maybe the banner hanging from the wall happily proclaiming, "Happy Birthday Sam," in bright pink letters. Just like that she remembered. Today was her birthday, wasn't it? And she hadn't been here. Her not dad bristled at the sight of her. And where have you been? Adam, wait. Her not mom laid a hand on his, trying to calm him. Trying, and failing, like always. Just calm down. Dad scoffed and sprang to his feet. Don't stick up for her. Just look. She's late for her own birthday. He took a step her way, glaring her. You couldn't even call. Her gaze strayed back to the cake. It was missing a massive chunk. 3 guesses where it went. She balked at the man she'd once called Daddy. Did you eat my cake? Adam's face purpled with apoplectic rage. How dare you? Anger sparked in her. How dare she? How dare he? This wasn't the way it was supposed to be. Something ugly curdled inside her. She took one step away from him, then another. I need to go. Go? He shouted at her as she turned her back on him. Go where? His voice rose when she broke out into a run. Hey! Like it or not, we're the only family you've got. The wall behind her shattered. Wrong. She'd asked Dad to wait. And he had. He really had. Now he burst into the room like a thunderstorm, burning like the sun. I was actually willing to give you one last chance, he tooted softly as he walked over the rubble, shaking his head side to side in a grand gesture that just promised violence. How pathetic is that? I guess some things never change. Well, he brought both hands together in a sharp clap, startling her not parents. Congratulations. You blew it. Game over. Adam sputtered. And who the hell are you? Her father, you gawping little SHT, he dismissed the portly man with a glance. We're leaving, princess. Pack your things. Eve scrambled backward and clutched at his sleeve. I changed my mind. There's nothing I want here. Her not mom cried out. You can't. Don't you get it? Cold blue eyes rooted them where they stood, cold as ice. You never had a child, not really. You thought she was yours, but she isn't, he took his time, twisting the proverbial knife in their hearts. This girl here, my daughter, was switched with yours at BRTH. She's not yours. There it was, that was it, the band-aid ripped clean off. She's never been yours and she will never be yours. Never again. The hell she isn't. Adam thundered up to his, face red and puffing. Get out of here before I call the cops. Dad flung a sheaf of paper in his face. I've got a DNA test right here, courtesy of one Dr. Elias Brandyworth. You're welcome to take one of your own, or as many as you like. But the results won't change. Her mom no, Betsy, not her mom, whimpered once, hands covering her mouth. No. Quiet, doormat. He loomed large over the woman she'd once called her mother then sighed. At least you tried, though you should have done better. I was willing to give you a chance at least. And then he turned to face her not father. As for you, what can I possibly say about you? He leaned closer, face writ in a fearsome scowl. You're a failure of a father. The world is lesser for having you in it. Be thankful your daughter asked me not to kill you, or you'd be a stain on the wall. His piece said, he whirled away. Eve took his hand, held tight, and let him guide her back through the hole in the wall. Adam brayed loudly in her wake. Samantha Eve Wilkins. You step away from him right now. She looked back at him, green eyes narrow. No. Betsy Wilkins fell to her knees with a wail. Not so Adam. He fumbled for one of the cabinets and came up with something. Eve heard the harsh click of a gun, it was a sound she was terribly familiar with after today. Her eyes closed. No. Surely not. He wouldn't be that stupid, could he? You let her go right now. Who was she kidding? He absolutely could. Or what, you'll shoot me. Naruto scoffed. Don't be stupid. Put the gun down. Bang. A harsh crack filled the air. Pain snarled down Eve's right arm. It was so sudden, so abrupt, so utterly unexpected that she wasn't prepared for it, hadn't even thought to conjure a barrier. She could only cry out and clutch at her bloody shoulder in horror. Tears burned in her eyes. She didn't even realize why she'd been shot. Adam Wilkins hadn't fired a gun in a terribly long time. His shot went wide and struck her instead of Naruto. It was all a tragic accident, really. But she did know that. All she knew was that she'd been shot. And then Dad was there, tugging her aside, humming softly. Shoo, he crooned. You're all right, princess. I've got you. This won't take a moment. A golden hand touched her wound, coaxed the round from her arm in no time at all and sealed it shut. In a matter of moments all she felt was a numb tingle as the nerves wound themselves back together. But the shock remained. And with that came horror then anger. Was that it, then? They'd rather kill her than let her be happy. Dad must have seen it, too, because his eyes began to glow. Eve beat him to it and rounded on her not parents. You shot me. Samantha, no. Adam lowered the pistol with quavering hands. I didn't mean to. Ignorance is bliss. She had hoped to spare them at least, not out of loyalty to them, but because she was a good person. She'd wanted to part on good terms. Understanding, you know. And then her not dad shot her. It wasn't enough for her to be happy. Someone always tried to take it from her. Something deep inside her snapped. It felt like her mind. You, she rasped, you're not my family. Betsy Wilkins raised a hand. Sammy, sweetie, just calm down. Calm. How could she possibly be calm? You are not my family. Power exploded through her very pore, her body bursting into almighty ethereal light. I see it all now. Her feet left the floor as she hovered in the air, voice echoing with every word, like an angel descending unto earth. Every single molecule around us. They tingled her fingers' tips, awaiting her command. I can touch them, taste them, control them. With but a thought she reached out and hauled her not parents forward, using nothing but sheer willpower to suspend them in the air before her and hold them there. I could rearrange your cells to make you whole new people from the pathetic parents you are. Her parents said nothing. Ever didn't let them. She never wanted to hear their voices again. You ruined my life. Her lips curled in a sneer as she held out a fist and clenched it before them. She had all the power now. Not them. Let's see how they liked it. You denied me, demeaned me, tried to make me everything I wasn't, kept me from people I didn't even know I loved. They seemed so small to her now. Insignificant. What had Kurama called the guardians of the globe before? Ants? That was the word. These people were ants before her and she'd never felt more powerful now than she did in this moment. It felt like she could remake reality, bend all of creation to her whims. She'd broken through her limits. Nothing could stop her, she was as a god. Eve. Naruto's voice cut through her haze, snapping her out of her mad power trip. You need to breathe. She rounded on him in a frenzy, teeth gnashed in a snarl. And what do you know? Dad looked at her without fear. Take a look. You can see now, can't you? Eve did just that. As she was now, she could see his molecules, too. And the light. So much light. He burned in her vision like a second sun, and Kurama burned even brighter in his stomach. He was powerful, stronger than her, possibly the strongest being on the planet. His mind became an open book to her in this moment. She felt his concern for her, and beneath that, the sheer untapped affection a father would feel for his daughter. He loved her. She'd known that before, but now she could see it. He didn't reprimand her, didn't condemn her, didn't do anything at all. He just stared and waited for her to make the right decision. Clarity began to return to Eve, the brief burst of rage going with it. In its absence, her newfound power began to fade. But before it did, she looked back to the people she'd once called her parents. What did she feel for them now? Nothing. But she would remember the good times all the same. As to the rest. Your daughter is dead. She reached into their very thoughts with the wave of a hand. No, she amended, realizing that was cruel, you never had a daughter. You will move on and forget about me. She felt their minds try to resist her words, her will, and crushed them for it, wiping their brains clean in an instant. My name is Samantha Eve Uzumaki. With the last of her strength she screamed at them, pouring out every ounce of emotional pain they'd ever inflicted upon her tenfold. And I defy you to even remember who I am. Her power cut out in the next instant, leaving Adam and Betsy to slump at her feet. She collapsed with them, utterly drained. Dad caught her. She snuggled her head into his chest, quivering a little. Is this what it feels like? Being a god? A low rumble of laughter tickled her ear. We're not gods, Samantha. Weren't they? She'd certainly felt like one for a moment there. Gods don't give a DMN, he chided her softly. We do. She held him tighter. Hey, can we go home, now? We will. There's just one thing I have to do first. What's that? She blinked up at him, baffled. For once, his smile seemed strangely sad. I need to hit up a few old friends. The Mahler twins were professionals. That wasn't arrogance on their part. It was simple truth. They were very bad people, yes, but very good at what they did. Each twin knew where the line lay, no mad plans of world domination for them, they were scientists, hungry for knowledge and not afraid to use less scrupulous methods to acquire said knowledge. But there was a line, one they never crossed. They didn't make a habit of killing indiscriminately if they didn't have to. They weren't squeamish about it, sure, but there were things you just didn't do. They had standards. Pay them properly and they'd gladly put their talents to use for the highest bidder. Sometimes that meant helping a villain. More than once, it meant freelancing for a certain hero. Currently one of them was celebrating said hero's return to the land of the living. What on earth are you cracking open that beer for? It isn't that late. Didn't you hear? He took a long swig. Fire shadows alive. Is he? One of the twins looked up from their work, wrench in hand. He's a good guy. Thought he was dead. Apparently not. The twin with the beer grinned. He took down some punks on the freeway today. Did he? He squinted. I didn't hear about that. Well, you would have if you hadn't had your head stuck in that machine all DMN day. Heh. Remember all those times he broke us out of jail? For a good cause, he said. They were, mostly. Came the shrug. Remember helping out those orphans? Ha. I remember his wedding. Most of it. So did he. The parts where they hadn't been blackout drunk. Good times. Think he'll hit us up again? We could use the cash. Please. If he's back from the dead, the first thing he'll do is hunt down that pretty little wife of his. What was her name again? Pollyanna? Polly. The twin with the beer bottle supplied. That's the one. They'd always liked Polly. She might not be the brightest bulb in the bunch, but she wasn't afraid to give you a piece of her mind. She wasn't half bad, for a powerless human. That and she made some mean cookies. I dunno, stranger things have been known to happen. One of their old burner phones vibrated wildly, indicating a message. The first twin arched eyebrow and looked to the second, you gonna get that? His comrade scoffed, but didn't look up from his work. Why should I? You're the clone. Hop to it. Oh, for the love of give it here already. Thumbing it open. He found a brisk message awaiting them within. I have a critical job for you too, he read the words aloud, already imagining Fire's shadow's grinning face staring back at him from within the cellular device. We'll meet tomorrow. Usual place. You know where. Discuss details then. You'll receive half the payment before, and the other half after, same as always. Don't let me down and no funny business. I've had my fill of bold friends, coming up short these days. Best regards. Naruto. Ha, he smirked. Called it. Sure, whatever you say, clone. The other scoffed. Nope, you're the clone. In the end, it really didn't matter who was the clone. The kid had been good to them. Time to repay the favor. Here he comes. Nolan heard the sonic boom long before he saw him. What he did see was a distant rumble of rolling lightning rippling across the clouds at speed. Thunder raced in its wake, growing louder and louder with each passing second. He'd known this moment was coming. He delayed it by choosing not to engage him back at Erickson's lab, but it had only ever been just that. A delay. That reprieve was over. He'd known Naruto would come for him. After all, he would do exactly the same, were he in his shoes. In that regard, he'd chosen his battleground well. A distant island in the South Pacific Ocean, isolated and far from civilization. He wasn't sure how he would react once he found him here. But better safe than sorry. Better indeed, judging by the towering thunderstorm headed his way. He was moving fast. Granted, he could do something similar, had on many a resisting planet, moving so fast that he superheated the air and destroyed an entire civilization, but that much lightning was a concern, even for him. He followed it with one eye, still listening. There you are. The man's voice caught up to him a heartbeat later. Nolan. He whirled, felt the air hit his face, then swung with all his might. Golden knuckles met his red-gloved fist. Neither yielded. The ground did. Hardened earth shattered underfoot, splintering outward for miles in every direction. Pain bloomed up his wrist, but he didn't have time to anything more than notice it, because another golden fist was already swinging in at his face. He grabbed it, then the other hand, and in an instant they were grappling, pitting their full strength against one another. The storm caught up to them a second later, and they were lost in it. He felt the ground cratered further still. Dust and dirty sprayed outward. And still neither yielded. Here at last he glimpsed his foe in the rain, all shimmering gold and black. Blazing eyes met his, half-lidded as he glared heatedly at him. Naruto was a bit weaker than he remembered, but only just, and he had years of captivity to thank for that. It wouldn't last, of course. He'd be back to full strength in no time and then some. After all, what didn't kill this man only made him stronger. Blasted shinobi genetics were almost as bad as Viltrumites. No, they were broken. Case in point, Naruto reared back with a roar lost in the thunder and delivered a vicious headbutt that left him seeing stars. Blinded by the blow, Nolan nevertheless struck back, smashing a knee up into his gut. Anyone else would have lost most of their internal organs and coughed blood. A pained grunt was his only reward. They released one another in the same instant and slugged each other in the face. Both of them drew back, winded at last as the storm raged past. His old rival-turned-adversary stood first, shook the water from his hair, and set his nose with an audible pop. "Hello, Nolan. Long time no see. Uzumaki." Nolan wiped a thin line of blood from his mustache. "You look good for a dead man." "So I've been told." The blonde cracked his neck. "Were you involved?" Nolan felt brow furrow in confusion. Involved in what? His old friend told him all. Everything he'd been through, without hesitation, about Polly, the children, all of it. And then he asked him again. "I won't say it twice, Nolan. Did you attack me that night?" It was tempting to say yes, if only to provoke him into a fight and finish what he'd started. He wouldn't deny it, he'd benefited immensely from Naruto's rather prolonged absence. The people of Earth had come to rely on him more than ever as planned. But to do something that cruel, that pervasive, it went against everything he stood for. If he was going to kill him, he would kill him. Straight up. He and by extension his family at least, deserved a clean death. They'd earned that much. "No," he said at last, shaking his head. "If I remember the date you gave me correctly, I was off-planet at the time." Reporting to his superior, telling him of the immensely powerful whiskered warrior he'd encountered. Warning them to prepare if he ever called for backup. Naruto need not know that. Nevertheless, his response seemed to startle the blonde. He hadn't expected that answer. "You're telling the truth," he seemed almost surprised. "Of course I am. Would I lie to you?" "All the time. Every day. From the very moment they'd met." He'd learned the hard way to be very careful whenever he answered a direct question from him. Stranger still, Naruto seemed to know he was lying about some things. He had hinted as much but let those slide, thankfully. What remained was an uneasy coexistence of sort. He had a mission here. As did this baffling blonde, though his didn't appear to involve conquering the world. So long as they didn't interfere with one another, all was well. Then who the hell attacked me? The blonde uttered to himself. We'll find them. Nolan clapped a hand to his shoulder. You have my word. In that, he was at least being honest. Anyone who could do that much damage absolutely needed to die. All it took was a moment of inattention, a moment of weakness, and even the strongest could fall. The last thing he needed was some silent assassin sneaking about under their noses. Still, the kid was looking better for his promise. Feeling better now? The blonde shrugged him off, but the hint of an old smile bloomed across his foe's whiskered visage. You still hit like a truck. He frowned at him. And you're going to war with the GDA? The smile faded. Possibly. I'd advise against it. You have no idea what war is like. Least of all with them. Aha. But I do. Naruto rounded on him, eyes wild. The object of any war is victory. At any cost. Or barring that, to make victory so painful, so utterly unobtainable, so repulsive, that they do not want it. A finger rose to jab at the sky. Reputation is what people think of you. Character is what you are. Don't test my character right now, Nolan. It won't end well for either of us. He should let this happen, but he owed him more than words. He couldn't afford to leave things like this. And so he broached a subject few on this planet would dare. Polly's dying, isn't she? Exclamation point. Naruto looked away, hurt flashing across his face. Her body is, yeah, he ran a hand through his hair, looking harassed. It's her organs and her brain. Whatever that BSTRD Erickson did to her, it stuck. I can heal it, even fix the worst of the damage, but it just keeps coming back. I don't think I can stop it. Without me, she wouldn't even last the year. There might be something we can do. We. Not you. Appeal to his decency. Let the kid think him helpful. Keen blue eyes fixed on him, almost desperate with hope. What are you suggesting? Something he really shouldn't. Nolan told himself this was the smart play, better to keep Fire's shadow on his side, make him amenable to his plans than create an enemy of him. But it was also a betrayal of his people. It went against everything he'd ever been taught as a Viltrumite. Let the weak die and the strong survive. But if Polly died, Naruto would go mad. If he went mad, he and that DMN fox of his might glass the entire planet. The Viltrum Empire absolutely needed Earth intact. No matter the cost. And so Nolan took the plunge. If she had a stronger body. Naruto shook his head. Polly doesn't want a new body, and you know it. She's proud of being human. She isn't built like you or me. The things she went through, the damage she endured, it's a miracle she's still alive. Her soul is still intact, Fire's shadow muttered to himself. So long as she has that, I can save her, I think. There are still things I can do. That may be, but it doesn't chance the facts. Best to be pragmatic about this. Her body is alive, but can you truly call that living? What happens if her brain degrades even further? Will she even remember you? You're going to live a long time, Naruto. Don't your children deserve a mother who can protect them? Stop. Blue eyes snapped into glowing slits. Finish that sentence and your face will be giving the moon another crater. All right. Nolan raised both hands to ward him off. I'll give you some time to think on it. He waited, watching his eyes fade back to blue. Thanks. I know you mean well. Don't mention it. Anything was better than fighting it out here and now. If they did fight tonight, he knew it would be to the death. A decade ago he wouldn't have thought Fire's shadow had in him to fight like that, to take someone down and finish them. Soft, he would have called him. Weak. Always eager to talk it out, to convert people to his side, unwilling to take that hard path, the bloody path. Now. He looked at him and saw the doom in his eyes, the steely promise of cold, icy death to any who dared cross him and his. In another life, he would have made a spectacular Viltrumite. Thrag himself would have cowered before this man. As things stood, he'd probably have to kill him in a few years. It was a shame, really. Such an asset he would have been. Instead, they'd have to fight one another one day. To the bitter end. Only one of them would walk away from that fateful battle. And the worst part of it all. Nolan wasn't sure it would be him. Naruto tilted his head. You thought about killing me just now, didn't you? He scoffed in return. You were thinking the same, I'm sure. A frown. Could you do it, Nolan? Just like that? Did he know? No, he couldn't possibly. Would you? I've killed to protect my family already. The blonde before him lifted his chin. If dyeing my hands red with BLD keeps them safe, I'll do all that and more. So long as they're safe. All that and more, eh? The seed of an idea was planted in his mind. It was too soon, much too soon, to act on it now, but it was good to know all the same. If this mad scheme of his worked out, he just might have an ally. Naruto would do anything, anything to protect his family, and he was clearly no friend of the GDA at the moment. Maybe he could use him, perhaps even convert. His watch beeped, ruining the moment. Nolan gave the DMN thing a baleful glare and considered crushing it for a moment before he thought better of it. He heaved a sigh instead. I've gotta do. Debbie's waiting for me. It's date night. Is it? That drew a rusty chuckle from him. How's Mark? Energetic as ever, it was easy to warm to the subject of his son. All too easy. He wrapped himself in tape the other day. Called himself Duct Tape Man. Can you believe it? Naruto snorted. Kids will be kids, I guess. Nolan disagreed, but wasn't about to say so in front of him. That oldest girl of yours, what was her name again? Samantha, he didn't hesitate. Right. Nolan snapped his fingers. You should bring her by sometime. Maybe introduce her to Mark. Having a friend with powers might help him unlock his early. A lie. There was a part of him, a large part, that hoped Mark never unlocked his powers. Because once he did, once that moment came. No. He stamped that thought down, locked it in a box, and buried it in the back of his brain. Buried it deep. Too late, Fire's shadow nodded, missing his moment of weakness. I'll see what she thinks. He feigned a smile he didn't feel. Sound great. Same time next week? Naruto smirked. Sure. One last thing. He paused. Yeah. It's good to have you back. It really was. That much was truth. The blonde offered a small, one smile in response. Good to be back, Nolan. They shook hands and took off. He flew east, Naruto, to the west. One day they would face each other for real. And the earth would tremble. But not this day. We can't do it. Naruto took a deep breath to center himself. It helped, if only just. His temper sparked to life in him, roaring like a wild beast, itching to lash out at the two men seated across from him. He took a hold of it, wrapped it up, and stuffed it into a box. He knew the Mahler twins weren't to blame for Polly's plight. It wasn't their fault. Really, it wasn't. Venting his anger on them served no one, least of all himself. Just breathe. In. Out. In and out again. He pinched the bridge of his nose to silence an oncoming migraine. He did not succeed. Explain, he said softly. Meeting at a diner come Sunday morning seemed cliché, but no one would dare bother them here. Not with him around at any rate. The Mahler twins sat across from him, devouring a stack of pancakes with brutal dispatch. They'd best. He was the one paying for all this. You're asking us to transfer her consciousness, the leftmost twin said between bites. It doesn't work that way. We duplicate his partner, brother. He'd never really understood how that worked, carried on in his stead. He mentally named them right and left. Easier to see who was who that way. What you're asking, we've never done that before. How's the wife and kids, anyway? Kids are good. He took a long, languid sip from his glass, savoring the bite of orange juice in the early morning. They fell asleep as soon as we got home. Your house is still standing. Surprisingly. It's large enough for the 5 of them to run around and get lost in. A rare, rueful chuckle escaped him. I left a full staff of shadow clones behind too, just in case. Even and the others will be occupied for hours once they wake up. Now explain. The Mauler twins exchanged a long, lingering look between one another. Like we said, Left began warily, we can't do what you're asking, not easily at least. Growing a new boy for your wife? Yeah, we can do that. But her mind? He laid his hands on the table. You'd have a clone of your wife walking around. Not knowing who the original is works for us, but we're pretty sure it won't go over so well for you. You'll essentially be creating another her. That won't work out so well. You're asking me to let a version of my wife die. So a healthier version of her can live. Right, interjected. There might be a way to transfer her to a healthier body, Left added, but it's not our specialty. Not like that. Never mind the fact that growing a body would take time. We can't just scoop out her brain and put in a new host. That takes time, and even assuming we get it just right, there's a million things that could go wrong. And then there's the matter of the actually body. You want her to stay a weak little human. We could make her more than that. Make her stronger, faster. It's not what I want, it's what she wants. Naruto bowed his head with a sigh. I'd like nothing more than to make her indestructible, or untouchable, but Polly likes being human. Asking her to discard that would be, he ran an exasperated hand through his hair, trying to find the proper word and failing. It would be like cutting off her arm. I'll talk to her when she wakes up. When she wakes up. Healing trance, he muttered. Should give her a few more days at least. A few more days, when they shall be had years together. And wouldn't that be a lovely can of worms to open? The Mauler twins looked between one another again. Right, spoke Fist. Speaking of talking, word has it you've been making moves. A blonde eyebrow rose. Wherever were they going with this? Define moves. You tussled with the Guardians of the Globe and wrestled with Omni-Man. His brow climbed higher. How do you of all people know about that? The madman preened, just a little. We have our own sources. Right, he sighed. You can keep the money I gave you. Left scoffed. But we haven't done anything yet. He stood, paid the tab, and left. You will. Time for another visit. Wake up. Cecil Stedman jolted upright in his bed with a start. His hand fumbled for the pistol he always kept beneath his pillow. A hand caught his wrist and locked down tight, grinding nerve against bone. He looked up and sure enough, found Naruto standing there at his beside, towering over him, silent as the grave. The last time they'd spoken he'd been frozen and filled with dread. This was worse. Those soulless blue eyes gazed down upon him as one might an annoying gnat or a monkey. He found no compassion in that gaze, no empathy, no emotion at all, none that he could see. Somehow what was worse? Anger he could guard against, sorrow he could deflect, jealousy he could use, but he couldn't tell what the BSTRD was feeling. Worse, he'd gotten to him in his own bed. Damn it, kid. Don't scare me like that. To what do I owe the pleasure? Fire Shadow didn't say a word. Didn't make a sound. Didn't even seem to breathe. He just stared. Not for the first time, Cecil found himself hoping Steven Erikson was burning in hell. He'd unleashed this. Him. Sure, he might have turned a blind eye to it, refused to believe that his old friend would go to such obscene lengths in the name of their country, yet he had. Someone must have pushed him to it, poured poison in his ear, bribed him, maybe. Why else would he countenance such madness? He had to say something, do something, because that silent stare was seriously starting to unnerve him. You gonna glare daggers at me all night, or are we gonna talk this out like adults? A slow tilt of the head was his only reward, at first. And then. You should have known better, Cecil. 6 little words, and yet they put the fear of God in Cecil Stedman right and proper as only one other man could. No, his mind bleated in a brief, irrational moment. Not yet. Surely he hadn't worked his way up the chain of command that fast. Not even he was that quick. It hadn't been a week. Even the legendary Fire Shadow wasn't so fast as to go through an entire government in a single night. You're right, I'm not. He scowled. Since when are you a telepath? I'm not. Naruto released his hand, leaving him to massage his aching wrist. It's written all over your face. I can see it plain as day. His gaze shifted to his other limb, regarding the metal that began just above his right wrist. You took my warning seriously, I see. How's the hand? Cold. Metal. Heavy. He couldn't feel a DMN thing from it. Not like had any choice, though. Better to have a metal hand than though lose something important like an eye. Why are you here? Naruto didn't answer him. He sat at his bedside, effectively blocking any hope of escape. When I first arrived in this world, he began apropos of nothing. When I became Fire Shadow, I specifically chose to straddle the line. I like helping people. A hand waved and Cecil kept one eye on it, not daring to look away. Encouraging them be the best they can be, you know. Hero, villain, doesn't matter. I still like that. But you don't help. Those keen blue eyes fixed on him intently. Oh, no. When you see a problem, Cecil, you don't try to talk, not really. You WHP out the big stick and start swinging. You are, and always have been, the destroyer of worlds. Maybe not planets, yet lives are lost under your watch all the same. Cecil bridled at the insinuation. He wasn't the bad guy here. I'd make a deal with the devil himself if it meant the safety of this planet and the people on it. You know that. Ichim. Naruto nodded. I do. But that's where we disagree. What good is safety and security if you give up your soul? His temper sparked. Don't you start preaching to me now, you sanctimonious ack. A hand found his throat, glowing an eerie, ominous shade of red. Don't worry. Clawed fingers dug into his windpipe. I'm not here to give a sermon. So why are you here? Naruto didn't answer. Instead, he let him go, stood, and took a long step backward. Cecil had half an instant to balk at this unexpected act of mercy. Then his heart and stomach clenched viciously. He tried to speak and vomited. You're starting a war with me here, Cecil. Naruto shook his head slowly, uncaring as his body began to seize and spasm. And I'm trying to be a good sport about it all, but I'm finding it very difficult. He stepped to the window, took a hold of the curtains, and closed them. You turned a blind eye to your man Erickson. You didn't think I'd find out. Cecil tried to speak, only to vomit again. You crossed a line. Quick as his namesake, the shinobi crossed the room and pressed a clawed finger set itself to his trembling temple, ready to perforate his skull. That comes with a price. Your organization hurt my family. Is still hurting my family. He leaned closer, eyes glowing balefully in the gloom. My dear Polly may never be whole again because of your boys did to her. Your boys F with my family and you let them. You know the rules and so do I. What were you thinking? Seal held up a hand and tried to ward him off. Naruto slapped it down. What the hell were you thinking? He didn't reach for his gun. He could've, but didn't dare. Fire Shadow would kill him if he tried. Instead he held out both hands, palms outstretched, and simultaneously tried not to weep or vomit again. He succeeded in the latter. Not so the former. Naruto let him go. Should you try and undermine me again, his voice was a low and terrible whisper that would have terrified Hades himself, should you attempt to threaten my family in a way, or otherwise provoke me, I will be forced to accept your call to arms. And should such a day comes, you'll wish I killed you here tonight. The only reason I haven't, is because you might be of some use to me. Do you understand? Cecil nodded. It was all he dared to do. Good, just like that, Naruto's smile returned. Now, I see you're not feeling well. Would you like me to do something about that? Horo dawned. Fire Shadow had touched him before this. Twice. What did you do? I gave you a little present. A scarlet spark flitted through the blonde's eyes. You see, the human body is a marvelous thing. It can adapt to chakra quite readily. However, it doesn't take kindly to Kurama's chakra when he's angry. And right now? He's furious. If administered in too strong a dose, said chakra becomes toxic and causes the body to shut down. He reached into one of his belt pouches and withdrew a little blue pill, pinched tight between his fingers. I suggest taking this. He held it up for him to inspect. It neutralizes excess chakra within the body. You should be fine in a day or so. Long enough to consider your past indiscretions. Cecil fumbled for it. Naruto held it back. Say please. The word lodged in his throat, please. Good boy, he dropped it into his palm and walked away, only to pause and look back. Oh, and Cecil. If I can get to you in your own bedroom, I can get to you anywhere. You do well to remember that. He left him there, wasted and gasping for air, weeping in a puddle of his own vomit. Robot leaned back from the screen. He'd seen it all. He dearly wished that he had not. Perhaps it would be better not to trouble Fire Shadow at this time. Nolan considered the device in his hand. Such a little thing. It looked downright harmless, really. And yet with the flick of a SWCH, it could change, well, everything. He had never wanted to use this communicator. This was something he'd wanted to handle himself. Something he thought he could. He'd been wrong. Terribly, horribly wrong. You see, Earth was vital to the Viltrumite Empire for 3 key reasons. 1. Its people. Any child born between someone of Earth and a Viltrumite was almost pure-blooded. 2. Espionage. They virtually all but looked alike, which made infiltration all the easier. And 3, perhaps the most vital reason of all. There were less than 50 pure-blooded Viltrumites left in the universe. Not enough to repopulate their people, not properly, not anytime soon, if at all. Hence the crucial importance of Earth. Which made Fire Shadow's cooperation all the more vital. If it came to a fight, he would resist. Nolan knew he would. That way lay disaster. Short of throwing every single Viltrumite his way at once, and even then he didn't like their odds, there was next to no way of taking that monster down through natural means. A sneak attack had worked once before, but never again. Nolan still wanted to throttle the BSTRD responsible for that, whomever they were, wherever they were hiding. And they had to be hiding, make no mistake. You didn't attack one of the world's strongest men and just vanish. No, they were still out there somewhere, lurking, waiting for their moment to strike. He'd thought about doing the same thing once, not hiding of course, but attacking when Naruto wasn't prepared, leaving the planet, slingshotting his way back around, dropping out of orbit and hitting him so hard and fast that he'd simply cease to be. Anything less would give him time to regenerate and make him even stronger. An orbital drop had been simple and not necessarily clean but an otherwise quick and painless end for a worthy adversary. He would have given his family the same courtesy if he could, killing them painlessly as well. Fat chance of that, now. Naruto's guard was up and training could only do so much to bridge the gap. But if he could be swayed. There was potential there. He already loathed Cecil and the GDA for what they'd done to him. He might even be open to the idea of a Viltrumite takeover, so long as he and his family were let be. And why wouldn't they be? One did not poke a sleeping dragon fox. If given the right incentive, the right nudge. It was time. He activated the communicator. "This is Nolan," he sent a curt, coded transmission through. "I require assistance with weakening this planet. Send a female if you can. Fire's shadow may be more pliable if seduced." Ha! Seduced, right. You're a liar. It was remarkably easy, they took the bait. A faint click sounded through the receiver. And then. Acknowledged. He sounds like a worthy foe. Nolan tensed, eyes widening. He'd hoped for at least one response, but two. That exceeded his expectations. The deed was done. There could be no taking it back now. It would take time for them to arrive, weeks, maybe even months, but arrive they would. And once they did well, then things would become interesting. There was an old human saying he'd once heard. No plan survives contact with the enemy. A small part of him wondered if this one would. He thoroughly crushed the communicator in his fists and let its remains crumble into the ocean. The tide would take care of the rest, scattering the scraps away with the current to the four corners of the globe. Doubt was meaningless. This was for the best, he told himself, trying to soothe his own anxiety. 1, maybe 2 lives, to help conquer a world. This plan wouldn't backfire, surely. This would work. Better a peaceful alternative than outright war. Keep telling yourself that, Nolan. You're slipping. Time would tell. Naruto wound his arm back and took aim. Blue eyes narrowed to distant point on the horizon. From there he cocked his arm further backward, like a pitcher ready to throw. Eve couldn't take the anticipation and giggled despite herself. Higher, higher. I wanna fly again. Her father laughed a little. All right. With a mighty whoop, he launched her upward. She actually got some decent hang time on this one, managing a somersault in midair before gravity sank its claws into her. She crashed into the ocean with a happy squeal and vanished beneath the surface. She lingered there for a moment, reveling in the cold water before a flutter kick sent her shooting upward once more. How Josh and her other siblings got sick of this, she'd never know. They'd given up hours ago, choosing to sun themselves on the beach with Mom. Not her. She wanted action. Well, that, and time with Dad. Her head broke the surface and quick as can be, just in time to see him wave her way. She could have flown back in an instant, but she didn't. Today was supposed to be a no powers day, a chance to feel normal, to just be a kid. So she paddled her way back. A lazy backstroke brought her to the shallows soon enough. Dad said water walking and its accompanying chakra exercises would come later. But today? Today was a day for fun. And fun Eve intended to have. As far as family vacations went, theirs was a simple one, and long overdue. Who knew how many more they might have? She couldn't help but grimace a little at that. She knew Mom wasn't better yet, not really, even 6 months later. Polly got tired easily and had next to no stamina. Dad spent an hour healing her every morning, while Brandyworth kept her on a strict diet to make certain she stayed healthy. Josh and the others hadn't noticed it yet, they were all too happy to have parents again to notice any flaws they might have. Jessica might get it, but Amanda and Luca were still too young. They just wanted to spend time with Mom. In truth, she didn't blame them. Dad was a good, well dad. Mom was trying her damnedest too, despite her condition. They both were. And she loved them to bits for it. She was still dwelling on that lovely thought when a green portal shimmered into existence a foot from her face. Dad, she recoiled and looked backward, eyes wide. We've got company, whoa. Say what you would about Naruto Uzumaki being rusty, but his reflexes were still on point. She was still speaking when a hand came down on her shoulder, yanked her out the shallows and swung her onto his shoulders, all this in the blink of an eye. From there she latched onto his back with her legs and raised both hands. Pink sparks of light flickered at her fingertips as she glared at the green gate, ready and willing to blast whatever came through. Dad grunted in approval. Good girl. She preened, made prouder for the praise. What do you think's on the other side? An arm, evidently. Clad in a green sleeve, someone's hand moved their way through and flailed fruitlessly for purchase in the air. Finding none, redoubled its efforts tenfold. As father and daughter looked on in quiet confusion, a voice issued forth from the other side, faintly muffled with panic. A little help, please. Dad looked to her, shrugged, heaved a sigh and reached out to grab them by the wrist. Then he yanked. Someone came flying through and bounced off his chest. Oh, thank goodness. The man heaved a sigh, hands on their knees as they granted them a grateful grin. You saved my life. That universe had nothing but radioactive rats in it. She took the stranger in at a glance, trying to comprehend him, young, dark of skin, clad in fad blue jeans, a matching shirt with a battered gray jacket flung over the latte. He sported dark hair, the barest beginnings of a beard and an easygoing smile that looked even more careworn than his shoes. Her brain caught up to his words moment later. Wait, rats? Eve blinked, mildly intrigued despite herself. Were they giant? Indeed they were. The young man laughed. The size of cars. Samantha shuddered. You. Dad wasn't so easily distracted. And you are. Ah. The man laughed a little and wiped a bead of sweat from his brow. Sweet heaven, where are my manners? I'm being terribly rude. My name is Angstrom Levy. The man offered them his hand, noticing her, but he only seemed to have eyes for Naruto. It's a pleasure to meet you. I've heard great things. Question mark. Name didn't ring any bells. So why did Dad look so intense right now? I've heard great things. Naruto eyed the man's hand like a snake. It may well have been for all he knew. Superpowers were weird. Have we met? Not in this universe, the newcomer sketched a bow, but I'm a fan of your work. I was wondering if you'd be willing to help me with a project of mine. Ah. It all made sense now. Of course someone would seek him out now that he'd come back from the dead, as it were. Angstrom Levy wasn't the first and he probably wouldn't be the last. Regardless, he would be sent away empty-handed like the rest. He didn't have time for petty games and fancy words. I'm retired. He moved to walk past the younger man. Say goodbye to the strange man, Samantha. His daughter sketched a wave atop his back. If you'll just hear me out. Angstrom body blocked them before they could take so much as a step, quick little man that he was. I'm not doing any of this for me, I'm doing it for world peace, or well, he amended hastily, I suppose you could say multiversal peace. His eyes flashed. I once knew a man who said something similar about peace. It didn't end well for Madara. You want it to end the same for you? Angstrom remained undaunted. Now, I'm not talking about controlling minds or any of that. Really, it's quite simple. His fist rose. So is this. Fist meets face. Whoa, there. The man backpedaled with surprising speed and held up his hands, palms splayed to show himself harmless. I come in peace. Well, a pause now, as he touched a finger to his chin. I suppose this version of me does. I can't really speak for any of my counterparts. I'm sure you understand, Ha. Sorry, much to his confusion, the strange man clasped both hands before his face and bowed to him, actually bowed. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's just, you're one of the strongest people on this planet and there's no one else I can turn to. Eve made a commiserating noise from her perch on his back. Just this planet? To the best of my knowledge, little lady. Angstrom nodded her way. I can't speak for the rest of the galaxy. It's a big multiverse out there. There it was again, that word. The hell was a multiverse? Question mark. I know, I'm rambling. He hadn't thought it possible for the poor man to bow even deeper, but he proved him wrong. It's just such a pleasure to meet you, the real you. I heard all about you when I was younger, grew up on tales of your deeds, then you vanished off the face of the earth and now you're back. You look good for a dead man. Flattery won't get you far. Aha, so it will get me somewhere. It was hard not to like this chatty little human. He had an amiable air about him. Let's hear him out. Eve gave him a nudge. He seems nice. A lot of people seemed nice until they weren't. And yet. Stop bowing, already. I'll hear you out. Excellent. Angstrom snapped upright, beaming ear to ear. I'm something of a pacifist, you see, and I'm still working out the kinks, but a couple years from now, I'm going to try something grand and I'd appreciate your help. I've been entertaining the idea for a while, but frankly seeing you and those what did you call them? Naruto tilted his head. Shadow clones? Right, the wiry man snapped his fingers. It made me curious. I won't ask you to help me for free, of course. I'd be more than happy to assist the Mauler twins in having a look at your wife. Even made a strangled nose. Naruto's brow shot into his hair. How do you? Angstrom shrugged. I keep my ear to the ground. And what can you do? Quite a few things. Angstrom wiggled his fingers, green sparks skittering from his fingertips. I'm a clever and resourceful man. I'm sure between the three of us, we'll figure something out. Naruto could feel Samantha looking at him, feel his daughter's hope. I think this might be the beginning of a appealing friendship. But if you betray us. No, and no. Angstrom waved him off anxiously. I've seen what happens to your enemies. I prefer to have my organs on the inside, not inside out. Thank you very much. How did you even find us? Eve posited. Persistence, my dear. Angstrom sketched a bow, the very picture of poise. In many realities your father is either dead, crippled, not on this planet, or not as nice. Naruto held back a wince. Define not nice. Levi looked back to the beach where Polly and the children were basking in the sun. Can I be honest with you? Naruto cracked his knuckles. You will if you know what's good for you. You're my third stop, actually. And third time's the charm, so. Eve raised her hand. What happened to other two? The silence was his answer. Think of it this way, Angstrom held up a finger. In the multiverse, there are as many different versions of you and me as there are stars in the sky. Some universes have mind differences, others, it's like night and day. Take you for instance, you and Cecil are on the outs in this dimension, but in another you're his loyal lapdog, lapping up every word he feeds you. Naruto winced, but Levi wasn't finished. He tells you to jump, you say how high? You even destroyed the moon. Why? Because your MSTR asked you to. His lip curled in disgust at the very notion of it. Some of that anger must have shown through, because the vaunted visionary quickly changed topic. In another, you were president of the whole DMN country. HRM and all. He turned me down. Come to think of it, I did stumble on a universe where you were a woman. She turned me down, of course, she was busy running a revolution. She? Dad? Eve tilted her head curiously. What's at HRM? No. Absolutely not. I'll tell you never. Don't you mean when I'm older? Samantha, honey, be a dear and look after your mother, would you? She pouted. Aw, but I wanna stay and listen. Samantha Eve Uzumaki. Get. She got. Naruto watched her retreat with a rueful sigh, coughed into a fist, and turned to face Engstrom once more, face red. How do I know you're telling the truth? You can sense my remaining honesty, can't you? I know you have the ability to sense a lie, that's one of your gifts as I understand it. That's right. Well. He spread his arms wide, expression serene. Am I lying? He wasn't, remarkably. Every word was the truth. I'd like to see these so-called worlds of yours. I'm sure you would. Levi laughed. But if I were to tell you of every wrong in the multiverse, we'd be here till we're old and gray. Another thought tickled the back of his brain. You said you could see other versions of ourselves, what about Omni-Man? Levi's face closed down and he knew at once he'd said the wrong thing, somehow. Touchy subject. Complicated subject. Came the counter. How about this? Help me with my pet project and I'll tell you all you could ever want to know about Nola Grayson. Even some things you might not want to know. With that, his curiosity was piqued. Why not now? Because, despite the vast difference in strength, Levi stood his ground. He respected him for that. There are some things I know better than to mess with, and I don't like the idea of breaking time. We've got a few years. And you're a good counter to him. Physically and mentally. Counter. That's part of the reason, you see, I'm hoping this world will turn out better than the rest. Naruto rolled his eyes at the remark. How could this man ever be a threat? He seemed so nice. So harmless. And all this talk of other universes had him intrigued, so much so that he nearly missed what came next. I'll be in touch. Here's my cell. He had his number offered in short order. Oh, and one last thing. He looked up, paled, and hastened through a portal. It didn't take Naruto long to realize why. He'd sensed him coming. A sudden rush of wind heralded a new arrival. He looked up and found a familiar figure descending from on high, a man wearing red and white. Nolan, his brow furrowed a little, both briefly baffled and instantly suspicious. I didn't know you used this beach. On occasion. His old rival/turned friend descended to greet him. He looked almost embarrassed. What's wrong? He frowned a bit. It's not like you to be this quiet. Well, Debbie wanted the kids to meet, she was persistent. His eyes lit up, warming to the change of topic. Think they'll get along? Ha. Pretty girl. Very pretty girl. Hi, said girl, clasped both hands behind her back and smiled at Mark, much to his chagrin. I'm Samantha. Nice to meet you. Mark, he stumbled over his own name for a second and finally managed a grin. Mark Grayson. The girl grinned at him and something in Mark's heart lurched. Wanna play a game? Maybe Mom was right. This might not be so bad. Do you? I like football. Her eyes lit up. Actually lit up. I love football. And just like that, it was love at first sight. Target in sight. The sniper sighted his prey down the scope. Took a deep breath atop the rooftop now, grimaced as his finger tightened against the trigger. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale again. The target, in question, paid him little mind as he sauntered down the street, wasn't even aware that his life was about to come to an end. Really, he almost felt sorry for the poor bstrd. At least it would be quick. Painless, even. It had taken him the better part of a week to track Fire Shadow's movements and another one to set up besides. Naruto Uzumaki wasn't the sort to stay still for long, let alone. The man was always moving, always acting, always saving someone, somewhere, somehow. Of course he was. He was a big goddamn hero. Almost made him feel bad about this, really. Almost, but not quite. At the end of the day, a job was still a job, although this particular contract was on him, though, not the family. Probably for the best. He had his pride. Maybe that was pointless for a professional, but he just knew better. Targeting a man's family might make them reckless, sure, but it also made them angry. An angry soup was the last thing you wanted, because an angry hero was as like to kill you as take you in. You couldn't try again if you were dead now, could you? The sniper rather fancied his chances. His employer had supplied him with special ammunition. Only 3 rounds, but 3 were all he needed. 1 shot, 1 kill and he would be set for life. He could finally get out of this awful business after all these years, retire, take his wife and daughter somewhere nice. His earpiece crackled, thick with a heavy accent. Take the shot. Affirmative. He pulled the trigger. The rifle bucked in his hands. Fire's shadow pitched forward as the round impacted his skull. His body struck the sidewalk. And dissolved into a harmless plume of so much white smoke. Not a heartbeat later, the sniper heard a new voice in his ear. Did he get him? Ice. Cold. Terror. It felt as if his entire body froze where he lay prone. He couldn't move. Couldn't think. Breathing became a conscious effort on his part. In that instant he became keenly aware of so many things, not only the wildly frantic hammering of his heart, but the hand on his shoulder, but 5 firm fingers biting through the armor there, the dangerous digits digging into the flesh and bone, biting down in an inescapable grip. So they're sending assassins after me, now. He could almost hear the smile in the blonde's voice as that hand ground down against his collarbone, relentlessly crushing. Can't say I'm surprised. Pretty sure you don't work for Cecil. Even he wouldn't be this stupid. Another country, then. I made an awful lot of enemies, but only a few of them would outright hire an assassin. How much does my head rate over in Europe these days? 1 billion? More? Do you even know? He let him go. Fear gave way to anger and lent the assassin enough strength to move, to scramble to his feet. He ripped a pistol from his hip and whirled around, slamming the barrel at the blonde's head. A harsh crack filled the air and mist. Really? Fire's shadow's smile was wreathed with disdain now as his head swayed back into the path of the gun. You thought that would work? Why don't you mail me the DMN bullet? A hand found his throat and swung him back into the very rooftop he'd just risen from. Talk. His hand pressed down, grinding into his skull. Who hired you? Screw it. He was already dead, no point in going quietly. Do your worst, hero. You won't get a DMN word out of me. Another shadow fell over him. Buddy, words are about to be the least of your concerns. Against his better judgment, the sniper looked up. He immediately wished he hadn't. Shit. Almondman smiled down at him. It was not a nice smile. Need a hand? Naruto handed him over with a grin. Be my guest. Realization dawned and it was an ugly one indeed. No wait. Omni-Man grabbed the screaming sniper by the leg and rocketed up into the clouds. Needless to say, he sang like a canary. Jab. Thanks for the help, Nolan. Hook. Don't mention it. What are friends for? Uppercut. Ow. That one stung. Cross and counter. Want some help hunting that guy's employers down? A knee slammed into his back. You think I haven't already done so? They grappled for a moment before a headbutt sent him reeling. Nolan thumbed a line of BLD from his nose. Alright, shadow clones. Keep forgetting about those. Silence followed his words. Nolan broke it first despite the sucker punch, bless his black heart. Kids are getting along well. Mark was asking after Eve again. Every father instinct Naruto possessed came surging to the surface. He narrowly choked them back down, took a blow to the ribs, grunted and threw another roundhouse. Was he, now? They're getting awfully close these days. You want to talk about it? His feelings on the matter were complicated. On one hand, he was pleased to see that Samantha and the kids were branching out and having a good childhood. But on the same wavelength he kinda wanted them to stay kids, you know. Every parent probably felt the same way. He could already see the far-flung future. Her and Mark were probably gonna get married someday, although such a day was still far and away. Even her younger siblings were out there trying to make friends of their own. Joshua and the others as well. Someday, they'd grow up too. How could he possibly muster a response to that effect? What word could possibly summarize his feelings? None. So he threw another punch instead. To his credit, Nolan managed to catch this one, twist his fist, and fling him over his shoulder. His back struck the earth and the soil cratered beneath his shoulders for miles in every given direction. Not bad. He was able to read his moves now. He caught the follow-up stomp with both hands, whirled, and flung him into a mountain, rendering it so much rubble. That all you got? Not at all, not by a long shot. Nolan was up in an instant, a streak of red-on-white barreling into him. He caught one fist, then the other forcing a grapple between the two of them once more. Shame about the island, though, they were making a mess of it. Ah, well. At least this one was abandoned. Pivoting in place, he spun and launched his old friend into the sky, sending him tumbling end over end, then flickered up after him. A hammer fist sent him careening back to earth twice as fast, soil sundered and tattered trees toppled like dominoes, further devastating the land. Outraged seagulls took the heavens, squawking angrily. He spared a moment of sympathy for disturbing their afternoon rest. Poor birdies. Another clash sent his old ally hurtling into the clouds once more. A moment passed. 2 seconds. 3. Strange, Nolan was taking an awfully long time to come down. Naruto planted his feet and crackled his neck, grunting a little as it popped. Sparring had become something of a habit for him over time. Indeed, things had settled into something of a loose routine over the last 2 years. He'd come to treasure moments like these. They let him bleed of his and Kurama's aggression in a natural way, and if a few deserted islands were the price to pay, well, they could afford that. His watch beeped. In time, he thumbed his chin, cupped both hands on either side of his face and looked back to the clouds. I gotta go. You good up there? Nolan came crashing down like a falling star. Heh. Classic superhero landing. Something had changed. His expression seemed almost resigned. Naruto. He paused, looking back. You got something to say? It's just no, never mind. Nola closed his eyes, sighed, and shook his head. It's not important. Same time next week. He flicked him a thumbs up. You know it. Omni-Man didn't need to be told twice. He sighed once and rocketed away. Odd, though. He had the strangest feeling he'd wanted to say something just now. Meh, probably wasn't anything important. His phone vibrated, reminding him of another, far more important task. Oops, almost forgot the groceries gotta hit the bank, too. So that's the one. He is. What do you think? He'll do. After all, he looks strong. I'll watch him a bit longer before I make my move. Nolan heaved a heavy sigh and palmed his face to hide his expression. There was a reason he'd lingered so long in the clouds, you see. He hadn't expected this either. Their arrival was inevitable, he knew, after all, merely a matter of time. He'd been the one to first send out that message so long ago. But even so, he had hoped for more time than this. Maybe a few more years before someone bothered to take heed of his message and come down to earth. He had orchestrated this, he had set things into motion. The matter was out of his hands, now. Reinforcements had arrived. Anissa was but the first. Though whether she would be the first to triumph or fail remained to be seen. Do you think he likes it rough? The newcomer considered the space where Naruto had been with a lascivious grin. He doesn't strike me as the gentle type. One arm came up under her chin as the other curled about her waist. I can see why he gave you so much trouble, old man. So long as you don't do anything to jeopardize my position here. Please, she scoffed at his rebuke. The only thing I'm interested in right now is him. Nolan fought down a rueful smile, if only just. Such arrogance. It would undoubtedly be her undoing. She really had no idea, did she? Absolutely none at all. She'd see soon enough. Still, he had to at least make an attempt to sell the ruse. Anissa, no. Be careful with him. His warning fell on deaf ears, the newcomer paid him little heed. The madwoman's gaze eyes lingered on Naruto's rapidly retreating form as she madwoman licked her lips. Anissa, yes. She rocketed after him with a laugh. A moment passed. Then another. Only then did Nolan sigh. Foolish girl. An explosion ripped through the city streets, sending civilians shrieking for cover. Naruto leaped out the smoke, a paper bag tucked under one arm. Seriously, he swept a hand through the smoke, scattering it. Kill cannon. Can't a man run some errands in peace? I thought you would have learned your lesson by now after my daughter picked you apart last time. Because it was the very same villain, much to his chagrin. His bad bloody luck for running into him at the bank, he supposed. Naturally, he couldn't just let him go. That BRT was yours, the lowlife's face twisted in a snarl. Screw the money. Now I've got double the reason to kill you. And there's the cliché line of the day. He dropped the bad, flickered forward, dodged another blast, and got right up in his face. Ever been discombobulated before? Disco what? Twin palms slammed down on either side of the man's head, momentarily deafening him. He didn't give him time to recover or toss another quip at him. Body shot. Lungs. Liver. Chest. Groin. He went for the most painful points on the human body, hammering his fists in until he was satisfied, until his adversary could barely speak, much less stand. Honestly, he clicked his tongue as he regarded the stunned goon reeling before him like a drunkard at last call. Villains these days. The ones in my generation knew better than all these kill cannons and stabbity-stab-stabbers. Was that the name of a villain somewhere? Probably was. I'm in a bit of a rush, so we'll make this quick. The brute unsteadily raised his cannon, slurring his words. I had the same idea. Bring it, you old fossil. Naruto absolutely twitched. Old? Did you hear that? Right, gloves are coming off. Good, he offered Kill Cannon a pinched grin. Then you shouldn't scream when I do this. Do VOICEOVER? This. Kill Cannon's yelp warped into a wail of pain as he grabbed a hold of his flesh and BLD arm, then twisted. It tore free in a shower of BLD. The man yowled and swung his cannon around, only for him to tear that off too. In a maddened frenzy the wounded man tried to knee him in the groin. He struck like a snack and shattered the joint, mangling it horribly. From there a lazy kick swept his remaining leg and sent him sprawling to the street. 3 seconds. That was all it took to break him. He'd gotten slower. It should have taken half that time to maul him. I'll just leave you here for Cecil, he waved a hand his way. He's probably watching from somewhere anyway. The wail of sirens in the distance confirmed his theory. Yup. Time to scarper before the cops came. Wait, wait, wait. The villain cried at his feet, you can't leave me like this. You're right. He turned back and stomped down, rendering his other leg into so much pulp. There. Now there's no chance of you crawling away. The brute garbled something that might have been a curse, but he didn't bother to hear it. Sorry, not sorry, got a dinner date. Very strong indeed. Gods, she wanted him so badly. He dismantled that fool like a Viltrumite. A shame he wasn't one of them, but he would do. Honestly, she was half tempted to take him now, consequences be damned. No, no, Anissa. Patience. Pouncing upon him now would be boring. She would slake her appetite soon enough. Polly? Naruto returned to an empty house. A helpful shadow clone informed him even and the kids had been safely escorted to Marks as planned, but even that news proved bittersweet, because he saw the tense look in the eyes of his doppelganger. He didn't need to ask what the problem, he already knew. He could sense Polly upstairs in the bedroom readily enough, feel her vitals flickering. His stomach sank even as few quick strides carried him up the stairs to her. There she lay sprawled out on the bed, pretty as a picture. She'd dolled herself up with makeup and chosen a little black number of a dress for their date, but there was BLD on her dress. She granted him a weak smile. "I'm fine." "You're not fine," he sat beside her. "Have you eaten anything today?" Her silence was telling, as was her pained expression. "Don't tell the kids. Do you want to die?" It was a simple question with near-galactic consequences. Yet he had to ask all the same. He sat by Polly's bedside, held her hand and awaited her answer. On the surface she appeared calm, even healthy to the naked eye. He knew better. Saw deeper. Everything. Without him, she wouldn't even be alive right now. Devastating damage had been done to her body, her every organ was in dire need of repair and some were on the verge of outright collapse without constant care. Every day it took just a little longer to heal her. He could feel her slipping through his fingers. Was that what she wanted? To perish with pride and die as a human? Did it mean that much to her? What was the point of pride if it got you killed? She squeezed his hand and smiled at him, the same smile he'd first fallen for a lifetime before. "What do you think I want, dearest?" Well, that was a proper loaded question, wasn't it? He said as much. That a trick question or something? No. He loved the way her eyes creased when she laughed, even now. "I won't lie, there are times when I wonder if it would better for me to give up." His hands clamped down on hers. "Not an option." HMHMHM. She hummed and laid her head back against the pillow. "So possessive. I don't dislike that about you. You tease. Not gonna give me any hints?" Her eyes met his, almost glowing in the low light. "I want to live with purpose." She lifted her chin to look at him. "I won't accept anything less, I can't bear the idea of being a burden to you." He burst to his feet. "You're not." "I am." Polly's subsequent shout startled him, that burst of energy seemed to take something from her. Her shoulders slumped and the light almost seemed to dim in her eyes. "Maybe you don't want to admit it, but I am." Her hands squeezed his, they were so weak that he wanted to weep. "As I am now, I'm a chain holding you back, an anchor weighing you down. You'll drown if you try to cling to me. Polly." He immediately tried to refuse her and received a weak pinch on the arm for his troubles. "I am." Her eyes recovered a flicker of their old fire for a moment. "All it takes is some psycho holding me hostage and they'll have you by the ball. At least the kids can defend themselves in a pinch." She looked askance with a bitter smile. "I can barely throw a punch. A stray bullet could take me out. The kids need their mother. They also need their father." Her counter proved swift. "You're stronger than me, you can protect them." Wait. Realization coiled around his heart, an ugly gnarled root threatening to choke him. "That's why you're so hesitant about this? Why you've been putting it off? You said it yourself, didn't you?" She pressed a finger to his lips, silencing him. "That machine the Mahler twins made it duplicates consciousness. It doesn't transfer. Should we use it, there would be two of me walking around. As entertaining as that would be for a while, and really KNKY, she giggled a little behind her hand, I think I would start to hate the other me after a while. Seeing her hale, happy and healthy while I'm stuck in this ruined shell of a body, it would be too painful. We could take your brain, find a way to transfer. Would I even remember you? Would I still be me? Be honest, now." He grimaced. "There's a small chance you might not." "I see." She bit her lip. "But it's only a small chance. Less that 1%. Even so, I want you to be the best you can be. To be happy. Easy for her to say. Frantic, he tried to steer the conversation to warmer waters. That why you're so keen on that THRSM with War Woman? Hey, she sputtered and slapped his arm with a giggle. I like what I like. She tried to continue, only for her laugh dissolved into a wrenching cough. I know I don't have long, her hand batted away a thin red line from the corner of her mouth. Have faith, both her hands cupped his cheek. I'm sure we'll find a way. And if we don't? She laid her head against his shoulder. Our story won't end here. I won't let it. Why didn't she understand? You say that like it's simple, but it really isn't that easy. Morals mean nothing if you're dying. The door creaked open behind them and quite suddenly, all his own fears became the absolute least of his concerns. What? Damn it. He pivoted a heartbeat too late, knowing exactly who he would find there. Sure enough, Samantha Eve Uzumaki stood silhouetted in the door, eyes wide, a pillow clutched in her arms. Eve? When did you get back? You're dying. It wasn't a question this time. Something in her seemed to break as she said the words. I am. Polly gave her a small, sad smile. Come here, sweetie. Eve didn't need to be told twice. She vaulted the bed and all but dove into Polly's lap, practically squirming between the two of them. He couldn't even bring himself to be angry at her for the interruption. She was still so young and the idea of losing Polly must have terrified her. Sage knew it horrified him. He despised this feeling, this powerlessness, the knowledge that words. Don't tell your siblings, he cautioned her. Joshua and the others wouldn't understand. We're still trying to fix this. No, we will fix this. Polly's silence wounded him more than words, her nod did little to reassure him. Eve snuggled close with a desperate nod, trusting in them implicitly. He and Polly held her tight. What else could they possibly do? In that moment, Naruto finally made his decision. He couldn't bear to lose this, he just couldn't. One way or another, he would save his wife. No matter the cost, nor the painful price. Even if he had to sell his very soul. So be it. Unbelievable. Cecil flung down a sheaf of papers on his desk as Ferguson looked on. Simply unbelievable. His old friend balked. Sir. Just look at this. If looks could kill, the news articles would be a pile of smoldering ashes and his desk with a good bit of the floor besides. We've got heroes and villains coming out the woodwork to speak in support of this guy. The media's eating it up. And we're the ones left holding the bag. Of course they were. A family of 6 kidnapped and experimented on by the GDA for 12 years. Who cared if it was a rogue branch, if that technically wasn't the truth? It was close enough, and if people loved a good tragedy, they loved a comeback story even more. He'd forgotten just how well-loved Fire's shadow had been by the people. This boded poorly for the GDA. Erickson might be dead, he hoped so, although that slimy worm always seemed to have a backup plan, yet his actions just might see everything they'd ever built run into the ground. They had to turn things around. But how? God forbid this got any worse. It couldn't, right? Right? Anissa watched Naruto. It was a rather curious thing, being an observer for once, to contemplate her catch from afar, rather than take action. She'd never done such before. In truth, it proved something of a novel experience for her. Dare she say refreshing? Pondering her prey, letting her eyes feast upon his body as he went about his day, all the while seemingly unaware of her lingering presence nearby. If he was at all aware of her, he never gave any indication. She couldn't tell if he was playing dumb, or if he was simply blind. No matter. She would have her answers eventually. And they would be sweet. Ordinarily, when she wanted something, she took it. Such was the Viltrumite way. The strong survived, while the weak withered. She herself was a survivor of her people's purge long ago, and then the horrid culling that followed because she'd been strong. She'd only become stronger still since. And yet despite that, she did not act. She continued her vigil for a day, then a week, followed by a month, almost an entire year, peering at this Naruto as he went about his day-to-day life. A hunter must know its prey before it struck, and she was nothing if not thorough. Her observations fed her hunger and curiosity both, all the while slaking her longing for more. For you see, in observing, she learned. This so-called fire shadow acted differently that most these so-called heroes did. He was not afraid to kill, nor did he hesitate to spill blood when necessary. Yet he was not a mindless killer, not some lunatic who lived for the slaughter, or took pleasure in the pain unlike some of her people, like the mad dog Conquest often could and would in the field. No, Naruto was pragmatic with his violence. Thorough. Efficient. Ruthless. He may not be one of her people, but in battle, he fought like one. Because of that, his actions saved many. That much she could not deny. Yet for all that she could see that his focus was elsewhere. It wasn't hard to see why. All the while, his wife grew weaker despite his best efforts. She would die soon. It was inevitable. Another concept that she simply did not understand. Why one wife? Why limit oneself to such a weakling when he could have whomever he pleased? The woman was too weak to even have CC for crying out loud. Yet for some reason, that did not diminish her in the eyes of Fire Shadow. She absurd. Bafflement. Confounding. This Polly had no powers to speak of, but her soon-to-be lover held her in high regard all the same. Why? Was it her mind? Wisdom and wit meant nothing without the strength to back it up. In a fit of curiosity, she dared to come closer once, to peek through their window while they slept in the dead of night. The chit had somehow sensed her, awoken, and actually had the gall to wave at her before going back to bed. Her. As if she couldn't snap that weak woman in half. Was she brave? Foolhardy? Both? Did she know something she didn't? Was this a trap of some sort? Needless to say, she'd had kept her distance since. A secondary thought nagged at Anissa as she continued her vigil, watching Fire Shadow eviscerate villain after villain. Why had Nolan summoned her here? Surely he could handle such a foe on his own. Was he playing games? She knew herself to be faster than him, if not stronger. It had been some time since they'd last fought, and yet here she was. She confessed herself curious about that much, a thought that often kept her awake at night, when she was forced to cease her vigil and seek sleep. Nolan steadfastly avoided both her and her questions alike. He was using her for something, that much was clear. By all rights, she should warn Thrag. And yet. She wanted to have this Fire Shadow. Take him. Break him. Make him hers. For a time, she considered threatening his family to force his cooperation. Such tactics had availed her well in the past, but no. Attacking his family was a one-way ticket to ensure he resisted her to the death. Should any harm be inflicted upon them, the blonde one would fly into a spectacular rage and ravage this planet. She could see he loved his spawn dearly and his mate more so. Nolan had briefed her on their past. They were strong to have survived such. That, at least, she could respect. How to get his attention, then? What did he value more than his life? What could she use as leverage against him? Anissa did not know. So she continued to watch. And all the while her anger gnawed at her. Until finally one day her patience reached its limit. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 3. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author NeonZangetsu on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.